the feeling like I'm stuck in my damn mind. Tell the feeling like I'm rapping a damn lie. Tell the feeling like my life is a damn game.
Hey, what's up, guys? Today, I'll show you a horror thriller film, Inside. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. The movie begins with the appearance of a baby inside his mother's womb. The mother happily narrates that the baby is her own and can never be taken away from her. However, a splatter of blood covers the baby, and then the woman has gotten into a car accident in the middle of heavy rainfall. A couple is shown to have seemingly been killed by this accident, but the woman named Sarah suddenly wakes up, having survived the brutal scene. She is spewing blood all over her body and looks to her husband for help, only to find that he is already dead. Sarah immediately holds on to her womb, praying that her child is still alive, while the rain continues to pour upon the battered cars. 4 months have passed since this horrifying incident, and now Sarah goes to the hospital to check up on her baby. The doctor tells her that she will be ready for delivery the next day and should prepare for it. Sarah says that she will ask her boss to bring her to the hospital on the night of Christmas, and then she excuses herself. Later, Sarah meets an old nurse who starts talking about her own children, but she doesn't seem to care about Sarah as she pulls out a cigarette to smoke right in front of her. Sarah doesn't appreciate the smelly nurse and is relieved when she has to go answer a phone call. Sarah is now picked by her mother, who wants Sarah to start dating her boss. However, she doesn't really want to date anybody so quickly, so she goes home by herself. On her way, Sarah spots a couple playing with their child and decides to take some pictures of them. In the middle of her photo session, an old man sits next to her, and he's revealed to be her boss. The boss gets a business call and has an argument with his colleague before he sits down again, and has a chat with Sarah regarding her baby's delivery. The boss takes Sarah's house keys so that he can come take her to the hospital the next morning. Sarah comes back home to her black messy cat. She gets a call from her mom and scolds her for being persuasive. Sarah repeats once more that her boss will be taking her to the hospital the next day, so her mom doesn't need to stay with her for the night. Evening sets in, and Sarah enters her darkroom, where she has kept pictures of herself with her husband. She thinks back to some fond memories and fantasies about her husband. However, she is reminded of the accident again, so she sits on a rocking chair and tries to knit like an old lady. She doesn't do a good job at it and falls asleep on the chair while the messy cat munches on some food. Suddenly, Sarah wakes up and experiences some disgusting symptoms. She rolls around on the floor with blood dripping everywhere. After a painful sequence, she suddenly gives birth to her baby through her mouth. Luckily, this just happens to be a dream, as Sarah is woken up by the doorbell. She goes to answer the door, but can't see anything through the peephole. A mysterious woman named Crook asks to enter the house so that she can make a phone call, but Sarah refuses to let her in because of safety reasons. She says that her husband is sleeping, so she cannot let Crook inside. But then, Crook mentions that she knows Sarah's husband is dead. Sarah is shocked to hear this and demands to know who she is, but Crook continues to knock aggressively on the door. Sarah threatens to call the police, and then she notices that Crook has vanished. She checks around the rest of her house and doesn't find anything, but then she spots the creepy Crook standing outside her hall room. Running out of patience, Sarah decides to call the cops and inform them about this intruder. That's when Crook lights up a cigarette and shows her face. Despite Sarah's warnings, Crook manages to break the glass doors and prepares to enter the house. Sarah quickly takes some photographs of Crook, so she runs away for now. Sarah goes to her darkroom and develops the photos to see if she can identify her intruder. She notices Crook in some of her earlier photographs, back when she was clicking pictures of the family. The doorbell rings once more, but this time, it's the cops. Sarah lets them inside and tells them everything about what happened with the creepy woman. The cops investigate the bushes outside, while a detective questions Sarah about her intruder. She gives the cops one of the photographs she took, but they can't really make much use of it. The cops decide there's no point hanging around for now, so they decide to leave. The detective reassures Sarah that Crook will not return, and she will send a team later to check up on her. After that, Sarah locks the doors and switches on the TV. She falls asleep, while the news mentions some horrible incidents that have been happening recently to the immigrants. Sarah's cat keeps purring and wakes her up. Sarah gets grumpy and sends her messy cat away. Afterward, she calls up her boss to tell him what happened. Sarah goes to the bathroom and takes some pills. She then snuggles up to her cat in bed. Sarah gets some much-needed sleep, but she does not realize that Crook has already entered her house and is staring at her sexy body. The scary Crook decides to sniff some flavor of the baby clothes that Sarah has bought beforehand, and she makes a creepy sound. Then she goes to the bathroom and checks out all of Sarah's medicine. Later, she enters Sarah's room with a pair of scissors, and she pulls up her top to expose her belly. Sarah starts to move around, so Crook pokes her navel and causes her belly to bleed. Sarah wakes up immediately, and then Crook sprays a little acid on her face, thus burning her lips. After this, she tries to stab Sarah with the scissors. Sarah tries her best to hold off Crook and manages to smack her away. After that, she barely crawls out of the room. Crook chases after her and tries to break through the door of the bathroom that Sarah has sneaked into. Crook is not strong enough to do this, and then she seems to get disturbed by some noise, so she walks away. Things get worse for Sarah as her water breaks at a very inconvenient time. Now Crook goes into the kitchen and puts some cloth against her ears to feel better, but that's when Sarah's boss enters the house. He doesn't realize who Crook is, so he makes a formal introduction in front of her. He mentions that he has come to check up on Sarah because of all the recent violence on the streets. Crook says that Sarah is already in bed, and she introduces herself as Sarah's mother. The boss believes her without any doubts and is about to leave, but Crook asks him to stay for a drink. The both of them get close and comfortable. All of this is happening while Sarah is still bleeding in the bathroom. The boss spots Sarah's pictures and mentions to Crook that Sarah has wanted them blown up. Suddenly, Sarah's real mother shows up and demands to know where her daughter is. The boss gets confused as to what is happening, and then his brain finally starts working as he accuses Crook of being an intruder. Sarah's mom enters the bathroom looking for Sarah, but she gets stabbed by her own daughter, who had confused her to be Crook. Sarah cries in disbelief as she has killed her own mother thanks to her brainless actions. The boss walks up the stairs and is shocked to see what has happened, rather than trying to subdue Crook. His questionable decisions eventually lead to his own death, as Crook slashes his legs from behind and brutally stabs his delicate but smelly part. With nobody left to interrupt her, Crook slashes at the bathroom door to scare Sarah. Then, she drags the boss body away, but he wakes up for one last scream before Crook kills him for good. Sarah tries to sneak out of the bathroom in between this commotion, but Crook spots her and chases after her. Sarah has to run back inside the bathroom, but Crook gets a hold of her hair. After a brief struggle, Sarah is able to free herself and she stabs Crook. After that, she locks the door again. Crook gets pissed off and screams like a wild animal to express her frustration. Crook smokes a cigarette and tries to come up with a plan, but then Sarah's cat snubbles up to her. The psychotic Crook immediately kills the cat and demands that Sarah open up the door. A tense sequence follows as Sarah tries to drink some water to quench her thirst. Crook peeks through the door and orders Sarah to comply, but she simply breaks her bathroom mirror and takes one of the shards as her weapon. Crook reveals that she wants Sarah's baby, but this confuses her even further. Suddenly, the cops reach the house to check up on Sarah, and they already seem to have a suspect with them. Crook acts fast and leaves a shelf next to the door so that Sarah can't escape. The lead cop tells his fellows to go and check if Sarah is sleeping so that they can go home. The cops do as they're told and go to check up on Sarah while she struggles to break through the door. In the middle of this, the head cop flirts with his yoga girlfriend so that he can plan a hormone yoga with her later. Crook opens the door and the cops assume that she is Sarah, so they just take her word and leave the house. Now Crook gets back to work and stabs Sarah's hand with the scissors when she tries to move the shelf away. The cops suspect something fishy and knock on the door again, so Crook attends to them once more. The cops realize that Crook isn't pregnant, so a cop guards her while the other cop goes to check up on Sarah. He then spots the scissors stick to Sarah's hand, so he tells his fellow to arrest Crook. However, the fellow doesn't seem to spot Crook's pin blade, and she slices his eye before he can put the cuffs on her. Crook kills the fellow while the other cop frees Sarah's hand from the scissors. Crook notices the gun in the dead cop's pocket, so she takes it and shoots through the other cop's head the moment he opens the door for Sarah. Crook goes crazy and shoots at the bathroom door while Sarah tries to get away from her. The lead cop hears the gunfire and realizes that something has gone wrong, so he decides to investigate the scene with his suspect instead of calling for backup. The men get inside the house and witness the horrid sights in front of them. The suspect gets scared upon seeing the dead bodies and starts to freak out. But the lead cop finds Sarah and takes care of her. Crook is still lurking around, and she switches off the power to the house to gain an advantage. Sarah is worried that something bad is going to happen, but the lead cop reassures her that everything is going to be fine. He says that he will call for an ambulance and helps Sarah walk out of the bathroom into her bedroom. Now, the lead cop and his suspect try to bring back the power, while Sarah lies down on her bed. Crook manages to outwit the lead cop and shoots him in the head when he least expects it. The suspect starts crying like a little girl, and Sarah realizes that she is far from safe. Crook ends the cranky suspect's life by stabbing him with her scissors. The man looks on in shock before pulling them out and falling dead to the ground. With no other distractions in her way, Crook goes to Sarah's room and gets creepy while she is asleep. However, this just turns out to be a trap as Sarah bites her lips and runs away. Crook starts crying while Sarah walks down the stairs and tries to find a way out of her own home. She finds the cop dead on the floor and takes the pin blade from his head to use as a weapon. But then Crook gets the drop on Sarah and starts beating her up. Crook is brutal in her treatment and takes Sarah by her hair into the kitchen. As a last resort, Sarah threatens to kill her own baby, but Crook smashes a toaster on her face and knocks her down. Sarah starts to choke on her own blood, so Crook basks in the glory of her victory by lighting up a cigarette. Luckily, Sarah acts fast and uses aerosol spray to burn her ugly face to a crisp. Crook runs away, and Sarah uses the pin blade to poke a hole in her neck so that she can clear the blood that is choking her from inside. Sarah has had enough of this sick game, so she covers her wounds and equips herself with a weapon. After that, she looks through the house, using her camera's flash as a source of light. She eventually finds Crook slowly dying in a corner and is about to kill her. But then, Crook reveals that she was the other person who was involved in the accident that killed Sarah's husband. It turns out Crook was also pregnant at that time, and she lost her own son in the horrible accident. Apparently, thinking that Sarah was the lucky survivor during that deadly accident, the miserable Crook intended to approach Sarah and claim Sarah's baby as her own. Sarah finds this hard to believe, but things get even weirder when the lights come back on. The lead cop is shown to still be alive, but his eyes are gone, and he is totally crazy now. He inexplicably attacks Sarah in the womb, and she starts to bleed uncontrollably. So Crook attacks the lead cop with a pole, managing to protect the unborn baby. A fierce battle follows, but Crook takes advantage of lead cop's blindness and kills him with the pole. Sarah struggles to make her way up the stairs, and in an unfortunate turn of events, she starts giving birth to her child. Crook tries to help with the delivery, but the baby gets stuck in the middle of the process. In an absolutely horrid sequence, Crook tears through Sarah's belly using her scissors and takes out the child. She holds the baby as if it is her own and keeps it close to her on the rocking chair, while Sarah's sliced-up body lies wasted on the floor. The movie ends with the evil Crook happily united with her substitute baby. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.